It's been 1 year since African leaders gathered in Washington for the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit. The summit focused on developing economic and strategic partnerships between the United States and African countries, boosting Africa's position in the global economy, promoting innovation and entrepreneurship. VOA's Paul Ndiho interviewed Michael Jordan, Prosper Africa's Chief of Staff, and they talked about significant strides made by the United States in trade and investment.
Prosper Africa exists to boost two-way trade and investment. We help U.S. companies get into Africa. We help African companies to grow and connect with U.S. companies. We're the connective tissue. We want to build a strong conduit between the two geographies so that for mutual benefit.
It's been a year since the U.S. Africa Leaders Summit. Bring us up to speed. What has Prosper Africa been up to?
Well, Prosper Africa was created to increase two-way trade and investment between the United States and the entire African continent. We've made tremendous progress on boosting trade, on boosting investment, on incentivizing the private sector, and on mobilizing finance for African business. I can cite one example that since the ALS last year, we've closed 547 transactions worth $14.2 billion. This is an increase of about 67% over the year before. And it really demonstrates how we've redoubled our efforts across the United States government to engage with Africa, to invest and to trade in a meaningful way.
When you talk about some of the contracts that have been closed, highlight some of those areas of investment.
Well, these areas of investment range the gamut of sectors, and this is because it's private sector driven. We have deals in energy, in aviation, in healthcare, in agriculture. We've incentivized over the last year or been part of $242 million of exports from the continent to the United States, helping to utilize the AGOA mechanism.
When I've talked to a lot of people on the continent, they seem to suggest that the U.S., despite these commitments, the U.S. is not doing enough. They need more dollars invested in Africa. How would you respond to those people in Africa who say, this is like a drop in the ocean?
Public sector resources, whether they're from any part of the globe, will have a limited impact because the investment needs on the continent are so great. In infrastructure alone, the African Development Bank estimates that $100 billion of investment is needed just to fill the infrastructure gap on a continual basis. What we focus on is stimulating the private sector. And sometimes you'll see the private sector doing something and you would not know that Prosper Africa, that the US government is supporting that particular business. But we believe that the multiplier effect that we can achieve through stimulating and incentivizing private investment will have an even greater impact than anything that will come from the public sector.
There are some countries that have taken advantage of the opportunities that Prosper Africa offers in terms of investment and trade.
We've seen African companies take an interest in investing and having a presence in the United States. We have banks like United Bank for Africa, Rand Merchant Bank, I understand, opened a branch in New York earlier this year. Investments that complement and seem to enlarge and provide opportunities for African businesses to do more trade or more investment or more financing activities. We've seen that sort of proliferate over the last decade or so.
That was Michael Jordan, Prosper Africa's Chief of Staff, speaking to VOA's Paul Ndiho.